How's it? Sean from Combat Simulations Activations. This is the tutorial we're going to be doing today from Lock and Load. So before we get started, please subscribe to my channel. It's free. And also leave comments and suggestions. And watch my videos. It helps a lot. And also like them and share them. Alright, activations. How units and hexes are activated in the operations phase. The restrictions on activations. How leaders can be used to activate multiple hexes in an impulse. Let's begin. Alright, so I'm just going to put this now over there. Okay, activations. This tutorial goes over activations in more detail than the brief overview in tutorials 1 and 4. The rules about activations can be found in section 4 of the rulebook. First, a brief reminder about the operations phase. The ops phase proceeds in impulses that alternate between each player. In each impulse, let's bring this down. A player activates and controls units in one hex or passes. Alright, brilliant. In the computer game, when it's your impulse, hexes that contain units that are eligible to activate are surrounded by pulsing outlines. Alright. Right now, it is the start of the American impulse. Take a look around the map. Most of the units have not yet been activated on this turn, so they may be activated on this impulse. The only exception is the half squad in K2 off to the east, which moved in a previous impulse this turn. So I must be talking about this one over here. A one half squad there. Alright, next step. Let's begin with the simplest possible activation. Left click on B2 to select the squad over there. Alright, let me just move this a bit here. I'm just going to move it more this side so we can see it. Alright, so we're going to left click. Before we do anything, observe that all the hex outlines are still present. We have not done anything with the unit so far, so the hex is not yet activated. So you have to do something before the hex is activated. Alright, next step. Left click on C2, right, to move the squad there. Once we click the hex B2 is automatically activated by the squad's movement. Alright, so if we click there, boom. Notice that all the hex outlines have disappeared except for the hex of the squad that's just moved. So everybody is disappeared. Since we activated hex B2, no other hexes can be activated on this impulse. The squad that we activated can continue moving. So let's just do that. Left click on C3 to move there. Okay, boom. Let's have a look at. Let's have the squad remain there. No other units are eligible to be activated. So press the end impulse button in the control window. Good, done. It's now the German impulse. As the Americans, the majority of the units are currently eligible to be activated, and the hexes are outlined. The exceptions are two squads in F4 and F5 that have moved earlier in the turn. Left click on hex L4 to select the squad over there. Okay, good. Now let's select him. Move this around here. Okay, left click on the hex K2 to fire on the American half squad. Okay, so we're going to fire on him there. Left click. The squad is activated when they fire their weapons. So after the attack resolves, you'll see that their hex is the only one still surrounded by the outline. Okay, yes. So basically when you move, nobody else can move. You've activated that hex. When you fire, nobody else can do anything in this impulse because you fired. Okay. This is because just as moving, firing activates the selected units. And now no other hexes may activate in this impulse. Please press end impulse in the control window. Okay, good, done it. Single hex activation. Back to the Americans. Alright, now we're going to go into some more detail. Alright, activating a unit in a hex activates the entire hex for that impulse. Units can fire and move from the activated hex in either order. To demonstrate this, left click on hex E3 to select the units there. Alright, good. Selected them. There are 3 squads, okay, 3 in this hex, but we only want to activate one squad at first. Left click on the highlighted squad in the unit selection window to deselect it. Okay, so he's out. Left click on the other highlighted squad to deselect that as well, so we only got one squad. Left click on F4 to have that squad fire their weapons at that hex. Okay, I'm going to do that. Okay, after the attack resolves, you will see that all the hex outlines disappear. Okay, all the hex outlines disappear from all other hexes except the activated hex. There we go. See, now it's finished firing. That one unit finished firing, and all of this is, all the activated hexes have disappeared, or hex outlines from the hexes except the activated hex, which is still outlined. We activated hex E3 by doing something with one of the squads there, doing a direct fire attack. Though the squad that fired can take no more actions, the other two squads can. All right, next step. Left click on the selected squad in the selection window to deselect it. It's finished its impulse for the turn, so we're going to take him out. Left click on the highlighted squad in the selection window. This squad didn't fire, is in an activated hex, and still take actions. All right, now let's left click on F3 to move the squad there. All right, this seems like a good position for the squad to stop movement. Now one squad has moved and one has fired, leaving one squad that has done nothing. Though this hex has been activated, this does not obligate all units in it to take actions. You can wait for a later impulse with no penalty. So basically, when you activate a hex, you can move individually. You can fire individually with the units in those hexes, and that whole hex is activated. So each one of those units can take an action inside that hex. So yeah, so that's important to remember. Okay, next. Sorry. All right. Previous step. End the impulse. Okay, good. That's what we needed. I went too far there. Okay. When unwounded leaders are activated, all adjacent hexes are automatically activated. In this way, units in multiple hexes can take actions in a single impulse. Left click on hex N8 in the lower right of the map to select Plasman's stack. Okay, so we're going to select him. I'll just get this here. Left click on hex K6 to activate and move Lieutenant Plasman's stack there. Okay, so we're going to move his entire stack there. Boom. Okay, after Lieutenant Plasman's units have moved to their destination, note that hex outlines remain on hexes N7 and O7. They were adjacent to N8. Activating Lieutenant Plasman activated all adjacent hexes. Okay, so there we go. So by him being a leader and being active, we did something with his hex. We did an action there. It activated the hexes on the sides. Leave Lieutenant Plasman where he is and right click on okay, we're going to deselect it. Now click on N7 to select the squads there. Alright, they are adjacent to Lieutenant Plasman and therefore can take actions. They are in an activated hex. Okay, let's click on that. Now left click on L6 to move the squads there. Okay, good. And we still got one more. Note that after these squads finish their move, Lieutenant Plasman's stack is no longer outlined. Okay, so he's finished. Once you activate units in a new hex, the previous active units are finished with their impulse. Right-click on L6 to deselect the selected stack. Oh, goodness. Okay, now left-click on the final squad and move it. Left-click on the okay, and left-click on N6 to move it there. Okay, so we're going to move him there. And there, we have moved units from 3 different hexes on the same impulse, all due to Lieutenant Plasman's assistance. End the impulse and go back, so we can go back to the Americans. Okay, next. End the impulse. Okay. Okay, there we go. Alright, let's go back to the Americans. Alright, chain activations. These leader-enabled activations can be chained together. Left-click on C6 to select Major Tom's stack of units. Alright, there we go. He's selected. Now, left-click on D7 to move them there. Alright, so we're going to move them there. As before, after Major Tom's stack finishes their move, see that only his stack and the hexes adjacent to his original stack are outlined. These are units that are eligible to be activated right now. left click, right click on D6 to deselect him. Okay, so he will be active. Okay, left click on B6 to select the squad over there. Okay, left click on C6 to move the squad into the building. Boom. Okay. Again, note that Major Tom's hex is no longer outlined. Moving a squad that was in B6 has finished the Major Tom's actions. Okay, so he's not highlighted anymore. The squad in C6 is outlined. It is currently taking actions and is eligible to take more. For example, moving more hexes. Okay. Corporal Medro's stack in B7 remains outlined. We can take more actions with these units. Let's leave this squad in the position. Right click on C6 to deselect it. Now left click on B7 to select Corporal Medro's stack. Okay. Now left click on D8 to move him deep into the forest. Okay. And guess what? These will be activated. See, this is chain activation. We activated, let's read what it says. We activated Corporal Medro in B7 to move him. This caused all the hexes adjacent to him to become activated. Now hexes A6 and A7 are outlined, and the units in them could be activated. Note that the squad in C6 does not have an outline, though in an adjacent hex to Corporal Medro's activation. Moving Corporal Medro finished the squad's actions, so its hex has no outline. Right click on Corporal Medro to deselect it. Okay, left click on A6 to select the squad over there. Let's move the squad to there. Okay, now select the squad on D6. Left click on C7 and move the squad to there. Okay, and finally deselect the squads. Okay, there we go. Chain activations. In the single impulse, we've moved 5 different stacks of units. Now it's a good idea. Not always. These units are off. Now is this a good idea? Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to follow the narrative. Is this a good idea? Not always. These units are all finished taking actions. These units are all finished taking actions for the rest of the turn 1. All right. Choosing when to move multiple tasks or stacks is a tactical decision you'll have to make on your own, balancing speed against the ability to respond to the enemy. End the impulse in the control window. Done. Okay, next step. In the board game, you would generally point to a hex and say, I'm activating this hex, and then do all your moves. On the computer, the process is handled automatically for the most part. Hexes are marked activated at the instant you take an action that would activate them. There's one instance, however, where you must manually inform the computer of your intentions. All right, let's do that. Let's take a look at hex I6. Sergeant Bowman and 1 squad are in that hex with squads in 2 adjacent hexes. Okay, let's just have a look. There's the 2 squads, right, in 2 adjacent hexes. As we learned earlier in this tutorial, if we take action with Sergeant Bowman, this will also activate hexes J6 and J7. All right, and those squads could take actions in the impulse. But what if we wanted those squads to move before Sergeant Bowman? That's an interesting one. Yeah, what if we move him? These 2 are activated, but we want these ones to move before him. Okay. Left click on I6 to select Sergeant Bowman's stack. Okay, good. Now at the top row, at the top of the unit selection window are buttons for various actions that the selected stack can take at this time. Up here, these are the actions. Remember, if you hover over a button, a window will pop up to give you the details of what it does. Okay, there we go. It tells you. Okay. From left to right, the buttons are low crawl, lay smoke, and the button we're interested in, activate adjacent hexes. Press that button now. Okay, good. All right, now the button tells the computer to manually activate Sergeant Bowman's hex, even though he hasn't taken any action. Note that his hex and adjacent hex are now the only hexes outlined. They are eligible for activation. Left click on J6. Okay, there we go. And left click to move it over there. Okay. Now right click on J6 on I5 to deselect it. Left click on J7. Okay. Now left click on G6 to move the squad there. Okay, so he's moving there. All right. Now right click on the squad to deselect it. Now finally left click on Sergeant Bowman, hex I6 to reselect it. Okay. Sergeant Bowman could move or fire or take another action now. But let's see what happens if he has activated the adjacent hex but doesn't actually take actions. In this instance, he will be marked with ops complete. Press impulse to see what happens. All right, let's have a look. Okay, there is marked ops complete. We ended the German impulse. Sergeant Bowman activated adjacent hexes but took no actions. So he's now marked with an ops complete to indicate that he's all done for the operations turn. The squad that is in his hex can take actions on a later German impulse, but Sergeant Bowman himself is done for turn 1. So basically, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you activate when you move your with a leader, you activate the hexes around them. Chain activation happens is when a leader is within an activation hex of another leader, and then he activates further guys around him. And here, say you wanted to move a guy, you wanted to move this, you got all these guys activated, but you don't want to move the leader, and then move. You want to first move the units around him that you want to activate them and move them first before you move him. You've got to do that, activate the X's around him. So they all move, but if he doesn't take a move or do anything in the same impulse, then he's marked as ops complete. But the unit inside him, with him in the X, is not. He could also still fire and move in the turn. All right, interesting. That's fascinating. Okay, good. Finished. And now that covers activating units and hexes. Remember that most of it is automatic. Hexes with outlines can take actions in this impulse at this time. Those without outlines cannot. But if you need to manually activate adjacent hexes, you can find that action button above the unit selection window when the leader is selected. On the next tutorial, we'll go over spotted hexes and how to make spotting attempts. Okay, brilliant. We've finished. Yeah, that's it. Simple, eh? Simple. So the activation is brilliant because it enables you to move large bodies of troops in one impulse. Usually you just have to move, you can only move one stack of hex, one hex. You can only activate one hex. So all the units in there you can move individual or fire, but all the rest of the hexes, are not activated, are inactive for that impulse. And you've got to wait for the next impulse. But this is a great way of being able to move a whole bunch of units in one impulse without having to wait for each individual impulse, those 3 passes. So it makes sense. So learned a lot here. Great. Really interesting small tutorial. So you can see it's so simple to play. The basics are simple. You can start playing straight away. Yeah, don't you love it? All right, so our next tutorial will be on spotting. All right, Sean from Combat Simulations. Please subscribe to my channel. It's free. And also leave comments and suggestions. And watch my videos and like them. Helps me a lot. All right, until our next tutorial on spotting from Lock and Load, good day on you.